Inside a recreational vehicle parked at Broadway and Grayson, killing 2 people and wounding at least 10. We were on the air live shortly after the shooting began, and Gary DeLon was there reporting on what was going on.
He's poised, ready to fire, but he doesn't know what to fire at. The shots have all been coming from inside. Ah, there's another one. Shots again ringing out. We don't know where they're coming from, apparently from that RV. That officer's moving quick. You see him, Smitty? Okay, he's trying to get a shot. He's opened fire once. Now here comes another SWAT team member. Now he's gonna, there he shoots again. There, two more, 3. They're gonna riddle that RV with shots. That's where this tragedy originated, and you can see the smoke now pouring from it. Smoke is pouring from it, Smitty, as we see it now. You can see it just above that orange vehicle there. We're not trying to create panic. We're just keeping you informed. We've been told that 4 officers were down. You heard from Neil Merchant, an eyewitness. They're going to empty it. Tragedy has interrupted this Fiesta parade today. They're riddling it now full of bullets. And oh, it's really smoking now. And if we could just get closer, which we can't at this time. There's another baby going into the EMS unit. We don't know how many that makes that we've seen. Oh, land. It's really a hysterical situation with these parents. You can understand if you're a parent. Oh, tragedy here at the Flambeau Parade by some kook. The helicopter is still hovering right above it. Now you see the smoke really pouring from the RV. That's where the shots originated. You see more firemen who are helping give first aid with all these EMS technicians. We still don't know. No one has ventured close to the door of the RV. I'm going to try to move a little closer if I can with a microphone. No, you can't, Smitty. You cannot see any better from there. Just stay where you are. You got a good shot at that front door of the RV. I think he's quit firing. I don't know. Another baby. Maybe, well, we don't know. We're not going to speculate. People have just been overcome by hysteria and tears. We can understand why. Please don't come to this area. Smoke has diminished somewhat as it poured from the vehicle. Apparently electrical wiring was hit by the fusillade of shotgun blasts fired from the Berghoff roof, which you see as the officer is still poised with his weapon ready, waiting to see if there will be any more shots originating from that RV. It's that 2-tone RV. You see the door is open there. And you heard Neil Merchant, one of the eyewitnesses, sitting about 3 chairs away from that vehicle when he saw the man actually fire a weapon at the police officer, and the patrolman went down.
There was question all the way up until news time as to exactly how many people were wounded and as to the identities of the victims. Gary's in the studio now with some of that information. Gary?
Fred, a total of 27 people were taken to area hospitals, 9 to Bexar County, 14 to Baptist, 2 to Santa Rosa, 2 to Brook General. Now, we've been given tentative identification. These are believed confirmed of the dead women. 26-year-old Ida Long and 48-year-old Amelia Castillo. All they did was want to watch a parade today. They were among the spectators near that RV. Now, we've been told that there may have been as many as 5,000 to 7,000 people gathered at this Parade Point intersection, East Grayson and Broadway. Mrs. Castillo was with her 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters when the firing began. Her daughters were not injured, but all 3 grandchildren were hurt. They are hospitalized in fair condition this evening. Police officers hurt were Inspector Elroy Krenwege, Lieutenant Robert Maldonado, Lieutenant Gary Nagy, Sergeant Ben Donahoe, and Sergeant Tommy Barker. Only Maldonado was seriously hurt, believed shot in the abdomen. Now, there was another officer treated at Baptist Hospital and released. He was John H. Scott, believed to be injured in a motorcycle mishap. He was not hurt seriously. And we've just checked with Robert B. Green. There is no positive identification yet on the sniper. Believed to be a man around 50 to 55. They said his head was either shaved or he was bald. They weren't sure. Apparently, he was shot in the head. Now, it is believed that it was done in police gunfire. And it was also believed done by sharpshooter Tommy Cavazos. From all we were told, the sniper was armed with an AR-15, which is the equivalent to a civilian version of the M16, an automatic weapon. He also had 6 other weapons in the RV with him, according to Inspector Marion Talbot. Also at Baptist, a little human interest touch here. A baby believed to be about 2 years old was wounded. Her name is just Baby Anna. That's all she can say to the nurses, Baby Anna. No parent has come to the hospital yet, Fred, to claim her. Baby Anna was wounded. Apparently, of all these that are injured, none is near death at this time, although one has gone to ICU. We've got all the 27 names, but we just can't give them to you at this time. The 3 dead, Mrs. Long and Mrs. Castillo, and then the sniper. And Maldonado is in stable condition. According to the, by the way, Chief Peters said they had as many as 60 to 100 officers answer the call. And that smoke that I mentioned was actually tear gas and perhaps some of the electrical wiring, but mostly tear gas canisters that could not penetrate the RV. Finally, they got some in there. When Cavazos shot at the sniper was getting ready to reload. And Cavazos said he saw his head just vaguely. He fired. Apparently, it hit the sniper in the head. He fell. And that's when the 3 officers that we saw Ronnie Smith's pictures of enter the RV. And Chief Peters said it was miraculous, Fred, that nobody else was injured or hurt. They had 5,000 to 7,000 people at that intersection. He also indicated this was premeditated murder, that the man had to pull his RV in there at an early time today to get that position in the parade route. He knew full well that was the parade starting point.
Of course, one of the big questions yet to be answered is why? Why would someone
He's just either a psychopath, he was a kook, he was demented. Chief Peters says life has to go on. This will not cancel the Fiesta events, and it will not affect next year's big parade and should not affect tomorrow night's parade.
Today's parade, though, was canceled.
It was canceled because of the great tragedy.
Thank you very much, Gary. In just a moment, our coverage of today's sniper shooting will continue.
Eyewitness News.
The word can be overplayed in this situation, but nightmare is the only way to describe the ordeal for thousands of San Antonio parents this afternoon. As word of the shooting spread, telephones became jammed at the police department and television and radio stations with mothers and fathers wondering if their children were among the victims, children who either were part of the parade or lined up along the parade route. Well, Deborah Knapp is downtown now at the Downtown Baptist Hospital with the Live Eye. Deborah?
Fred, this emergency room is the only one that is not filled with victims of today's sniper shooting. 14 victims were brought here, more than any other hospital. And the scene down here is grim and sad. People are pouring in here, crying, wanting to know about their relatives. Jesse Campos is one of those people. He has just found out that his mother-in-law is dead. She is one of the 3 victims. Mr. Campos, I am so sorry. How did you find out about this?
I found out about this at work. I was at work.
You got a call?
Right. Mm-hmm.
How many people were with your mother-in-law?
There were 7 approximately. 2 of the girls got shot, and my little girl was injured in the process.
Your granddaughter. What is going through your mind when you got the call? You didn't hear about it on the radio or anything?
No, I only saw it on TV, and then I came down here, and I found out about my mother-in-law's death here at the hospital because we couldn't locate her at first. I just want to wake up from this tomorrow. It's just like a nightmare.
I'm so sorry. Okay. There are people down here covered with blood that came with some of the victims. They are still waiting. The people started pouring in about 1:30. Dr. Larry Miller was in the emergency room at that time. Mr. Miller, Dr. Miller, did you have any advance warning of this?
Yes, we did. The dispatcher at EMS called us approximately 5 minutes before the first victim arrived, told us there had been a shooting and that approximately 5 people would be brought over to our emergency room. So we were prepared and ready.
What was the scene like down here as they started coming in? 14 in all were brought here, I know.
Right. At first, one of our doctors here on the staff was a Cavalier, and he brought the first boy in, a 9-year-old boy that was shot in the head. He brought him in his arms in through the emergency room, and it was grim. The nurses cried out, "Oh no, it can't be true." And then they just kept streaming in over the next few minutes. We received 14 in total.
What were their approximate ages?
Well, the youngest one was a little small 2-year-old baby, and the oldest was an approximately 40-year-old. Most of the victims were children and young adults.
What are their conditions now?
Okay, all of our patients, fortunately, are in fair condition or good condition. We released 4 of them. The rest of them have been admitted to the hospital. 4 have gone to surgery, but fortunately, I think all of them are going to survive and without any difficulties.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Miller. Baby Anna, a 2-year-old child that was brought down here for hours. They didn't know where her parents were. Her mother just called about 5 minutes ago. She was at the Brooke Army Medical Hospital. She is coming down here to pick up her daughter. She is still being operated on. Several other of the children are still being operated on. This is just a sad scene down here. There's nothing else I can say. This is Deborah Knapp with the 5 Live Eye at the Baptist Hospital, Fred.
Thank you, Deborah. If you remember the reaction most people had when they heard President Kennedy had been killed, you'll have some idea how people along the parade route felt this afternoon when they heard about the sniper. Thousands of them were crowded on downtown streets waiting for the parade to begin as word of the nightmare began to spread. Again, Deborah Knapp.
Along the parade route, a full hour after the shooting had begun, the streets were still crowded with people waiting for the parade to begin. It was eerie. People not knowing, not believing.
Well, they say there's a sniper back there that has shot 6 women or something like that. But is it true? Do you know that it happened?
Every few minutes, instead of floats and marching bands, ambulances raced along the parade route. Police bombarded by questions.
I don't believe so.
The big problem for police, beyond Broadway and Grayson, was how to keep more than 3,000 people from panicking. Finally, at 2:45, the announcement was made.
Okay, attention everybody, the parade has been canceled. The parade has been canceled. There will be no parade today. The parade has been canceled. Please go home.
And the Battle of Flowers parade was over before it ever began. Deborah Knapp, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
We have a tape now that was taped while the incident was in progress. One of the witnesses who was directly in front of, I believe it is, in front of the recreational vehicle as the shots were being fired. We want to tell you in advance that the tape has what you might consider to be offensive language, so be prepared to turn down your television set.
Come here, sir, right here. Sit down here with me. We still hear the fire. What is your name?
Neil Merchant.
Neil? Now, you were right next to that RV. What happened?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't right next to it. I crossed the street from it. He let off one shot, and I thought, well, there's some idiot out here popping firecrackers. So I stood up and looked around to see where the fireworks come from. And I looked across. As I was turning around to look back at the intersection, I seen smoke come from the trailer, from the gun. And there's another cop hit the ground. I turned around, I told the wife and the rest of my family, get on the ground. I jumped over the row chair just in front of me. I thought, well, hell, I'll go over there and help the cops out, pull the son of a bitch out. I jumped across the chair, he opened up with a semi-automatic.
What, was it one sniper or two?
Just one is all it was doing to shoot.
Young white man, black,
I couldn't
Anglo,
tell you what
Mexican?
color he was. All I can tell you is the son of a bitch is crazy. And he ought to be put away permanently.
How many did you see go down?
I seen 4 city cops laying right in the middle of the intersection. And the little girl right 2 chairs down from where I was sitting got hit. The little boy right in front of me got hit. Got a gash in his leg here from a ricocheting bullet. There's a lady right back over here on this corner. Got hit. She's down.
Okay, as we see behind us, Smitty, if you can go to the EMS. They're taking the little girl.
Debbie, get down.
Get down, honey. They're taking the little girl in the other ambulance. She's been hit in the neck and the chest, and they've got another child in there that's been hit in the leg. And
that's the one I carried up there, probably the one that got hit in the leg.
Now, you saw the guy actually open fire then, Neil, is that right?
I actually saw him open fire. And he just flat crazy. I've been in the service. I was in the service for 2 months. I didn't get to see action over in Vietnam. But from what I was taught in the service, the son of a bitch, he acted just like his.
Was Officer Sombrano. We may have had a little bit of a problem with the interview, but basically what he told Joe Sweeney was that they were tied up with the parade at various points along the route, and therefore when the incident happened, there was confusion. This is the opinion, though, of the SWAT team member himself. Earlier, Rolando, you were speaking with Police Chief Peters. What did he say about the response time?
Well, the chief said that a lot of it had to do with the number of people in the area. Naturally, all the roads were congested because of the people that had come to see the Battle of Flowers, David, and there was just no way to get in here any quicker. As far as the people on duty, directing traffic, according to Chief Peters, they were all people from the traffic division that were supposed to be on the job to begin with, or people working on overtime. Nobody had been pulled off other duties to work the parade. These were just people who had worked overtime and people who were supposed to be working in the
So obviously there is going to be some difference of opinion on this question. So then let's recap what happened today. A sniper opened fire shortly before the Battle of Flowers parade was to have begun here at the corners of Broadway and Grayson. Innocent bystanders wounded. Sharon said as many as 33. We don't know exactly what all this is going to mean in coming days, but we do know that the immediate impact on Fiesta Week has been very chilling. Many people just decided to leave. You know, there was a series of stories to be told here. We saw boxes of food left open. People just left, some with baby carriages left behind. I saw a sandal along Grayson Street, apparently that of a young child who, in their haste to leave the scene, left the sandal behind, and who can blame them? No doubt that the remaining Fiesta activities are going to be affected by what happened this afternoon. We have identified the sniper.
Captain Nichols of the San Jose Police Department. The parade has been officially canceled, and we regret very deeply this tragic event.
Mr. Canty, had you had any type of forewarning? Had there been any threats, anything that would lead you to believe that something like this could have possibly come off?
Not to anybody's knowledge. No, sir. The answer is no.
That then was the response from the parade coordinator, the man who, along with his wife, helped arrange this Battle of Flowers parade that this year just did not come off. We have identified the gunman again as Ira Atteburry. He was listing his address on Southwest Military Drive. We're going to show you now some of the scenes of what happened immediately after he was killed and the SWAT team came into the recreational vehicle. We're going to show you that right now. These are the scenes of the police officers now bringing out the body. He was clad only in a pair of brown slacks. He was barefooted, no shirt on. We weren't able to tell how many times he was hit, but there was just immense blood all over his body, the upper torso. He was pulled out. He was quickly covered. He was put into an ambulance, and he was pulled away, taken to the Bexar County morgue. We will tell you also that the recreational vehicle itself has also been sealed and taken for evidence to an undisclosed location. I'm sure that homicide is going to be looking at that later. So there you have it, Larry. That's what's been happening here this afternoon, a very tragic event. At 6 o'clock tonight, we're going to update every aspect of the story. We're going to bring you the latest on the people who have been wounded, those who have been killed, anything else we can gather from police officials as they continue their investigation. We will tell you this. Channel 4 has this year, as in years past, been televising the Battle of Flowers parade, and we were caught in front of the Alamo, but we made our way over here, and Rolando, you were seeing some of the scenes of what was happening. What was the reaction of the crowd as you made your way over here?
Well, David, as I drove in, I parked across the street from where all the action was, and my immediate reaction was people lying all over the place and people scattering, running for cover, and police officers saying, get down, get down, get down inside mobile force.
After 1 o'clock, we have received various reports, but as best we can tell, it was about 10 minutes after 1 when the first shots were fired. What we're about to show you now are the scenes that were taken as the violent drama first began. They were shot, or they were filmed, by Jerry McGallagher, our photographer, who was positioned just opposite the recreational vehicle, a 1972 green recreational vehicle that was positioned right here at the corner of Grayson and Broadway. Jerry was able to film these scenes of people who were pinned down. They didn't know where the shots were coming from. They heard the first rounds, and they dived to the ground. Now, look now, there is a woman who was running into the recreational vehicle. She didn't know where the shots were coming from, and so she thought that perhaps there was safety inside the vehicle. As it turned out, the man who had an arsenal with him, in fact, was inside the same vehicle. And now, of course, as the drama continued, people who were wounded, many of whom had been hit as they panicked and began to run, were being transported away to various hospitals around the city. Meanwhile, of course, the scene here was chaotic. Look at these people now who were getting up. They were underneath newspapers, anything they could find, chairs, boxes, papers, blankets, anything they could find, as the SWAT team looked on, beginning to fire now some shots into the vehicle itself. At that point, they didn't know who was holed up inside the green, what appeared to have been a Winnebago. It was not a Winnebago, but one of those very common vehicles used for vacations and so forth. Quickly, the area was cordoned off, but the problem was that there were many people who were sealed within this cordon. They couldn't move. They couldn't go anywhere. Where was safety, people were asking? Well, no one really knew. The idea was to stay put, stay as low as possible, out of the range of this man who continuously fired what was, in some cases, an M16, in other cases, a high-powered rifle, in other cases, a handgun, a shotgun. Still, we don't know how much he had inside, but it was certainly an arsenal. Who was the man? Who was the man who was doing this? Who was the man that took this opportunity to park a vehicle here hours before this parade was to have started, positioning himself very carefully, sealing off the windows, barricading himself inside, then very calmly waiting until people gathered here, thousands of them, at Grayson and Broadway. Well, Channel 4 was able to trace the registration of this vehicle, and Mike Cavender found out exclusively, even before police, who this man is. And we're going to go now back to Mike Cavender, who is in our studios for that part of the report. Mike?
David, that man was Ira Atteburry. He was known to be a quiet man, one who kept to himself while he lived at Al's Trailer Park on Southwest Military Drive. He had few visitors and no family in the local area that we know of. We talked with Kate Copeland, the manager of the trailer park, this afternoon. She said Atteburry was retired, although what kind of job he held, we don't know. We do know this. Ira Atteburry had no previous police record and no outstanding warrants against him. He had moved to Al's Trailer Park after living for a time at the Riverview Trailer Park in San Antonio. Kate Copeland talked with us about Ira Atteburry.
Approximately a year, close to a year.
And in that time, what kind of a person have you come to know him as?
Well, he was a kind of a loner. He kind of quiet sort of person. He didn't have, you know, he was kind of funny in his ways and all, but only thing I had to do with him when he come to pay his rent or get the lawnmower or something about the trailer park that he needed.
When you say he had funny sort of ways, what do you mean?
Well, he just seemed to like, see, I charged him a deposit on their mailbox key, and he came back and says, would you give me the $1 on the deposit? Says, I'm just may up and leave sometime when you're not here, and says, I'd like to have the $1. Well, I gave it to him. I told him I'd better leave it in the mailbox when you leave.
Did you know him to possess any weapons of any sort?
Sir, I never did. No, never saw any weapons.
Atteburry told Kate Copeland that he was leaving San Antonio after the Battle of Flowers parade today. He apparently had plans to visit Arkansas and Missouri to have a new trailer made to haul his car behind that motorhome, that one that was downtown. He left the trailer park last night, and that was the last that Kate Copeland had seen of him. She told me it's still difficult to believe that Atteburry could have been involved in such a tragedy. David?
Thank you, Michael. The identity then, once again, of the gunman is 55-year-old Ira Atteburry, a quiet man, as we just saw, who used to live on Southwest Military Drive. What about the people who were here? Some of them have stayed. They're still around us here, and it's an ironic picture because people came here and they were still sitting here just a few moments ago, just staring, just wondering, and just looking at this site, and some of them even looking for possessions that they may have left behind. The people who were trapped in the parade, that's another story in itself, and Paul Schaefer has that.
This was the scene at Grayson and Broadway this afternoon. These people had come for a fun-filled parade, but instead they had to scramble for their lives. As I arrived on the scene, directly behind the building near the van, I spotted the parade participants running from the scene and others trying to get out of the way of that fire.
Get down! Everybody get down on that wall!
The police and the EMS assisted in getting people out. Of course, they were crouched in positions where, because of the fire, they were afraid to get up. They waited for orders from the police before they would leave. I was surprised as many people were as wounded as they were. When I arrived on the scene, I didn't know that actually there had been wounded. I had known that there was a sniper in the area. Then the wounded, more and more, kept being hauled into ambulances, being evacuated from the area. This telltale scene sort of tells the whole story of how the Battle of Flowers was ruined this afternoon. Finally, police did manage to enter the van. They discovered the man was dead. Still, they don't know why. What was the reason for all this? But all that was left now was to remove the dead from the scene. There were a number of people that were at the parade, unaware of what had happened. Some didn't even think it was for real at first.
No, sir, I just saw him fall down because we thought it was part of a prank of the parade, that's all.
Really? What made you think it was a prank?
Because we usually catch some of the things like that, you know, the clowns, things like that.
When did you realize it wasn't a prank?
When I saw a policeman fall down there.
He was shot?
Yes, sir. He got hold of his leg.
And then what happened when you saw him fall?
We started running.
Everybody started running?
Yes, we hit the floor. My wife and all my in-laws. They hit the floor.
Did you have any idea where the shots were coming from?
From that thing right there, we knew right away.
Oh, you did?
Yes. One of our friends from the family saw him first when he kicked the door open.
Oh, they did see him?
Yes.
Wait, was there anyone in there with him?
No, sir. We didn't know anything. We just didn't have time to look.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please clear the area? The parade has been canceled. The parade has been canceled. We ask that you clear the area and return to your home. If you have personal belongings in the area, we will return them to you as soon as it is possible. Please clear the area. Thank you.
You know, amazingly, despite the scenes that we've just seen there were some people who told me that they didn't agree with the parade being canceled. They wanted it to continue. Of course, they probably did not see what we saw, what we just showed you here. There were others, of course, who would have wished that they had stayed at home today because some of them were wounded, and of course others, their friends, their relatives are now in hospitals, and there are still others who have been killed. Sharon Jones has the latest on that.
33 people were taken to 6 local hospitals soon after the sniper began shooting. Some of the victims were taken to the Baptist Hospital downtown, many of them children. Of the 33 wounded, 5 are police officers, and 2 women were killed during the shooting spree. Most of the victims have been identified, and many of them are in fair condition. Most were frightened and separated from their families during the confusion. A few received injuries when a crowd panicked around Grayson and Broadway. The Bexar County Hospital also handled its share of the victims, many of them police officers injured in the line of duty. Here are the names of the wounded. Sharon Jones, 4 Big News on the scene.
That then is the latest on the wounded and those who have been killed in this tragic incident. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Police Chief Emil Peters, and we'll also see how the SWAT team was put into action and whether the SWAT team believes they responded quickly enough.
Says that the shooting just happened. A man apparently decided that he was going to do it. He told 4 Big News that they'd received no calls of any kind, no prank calls saying this could possibly happen. All he knows is that a man in his 50s suddenly opened fire.
Approximately 30 minutes before the parade was to start, someone opened the door of a Winnebago parked on the southwest corner of this intersection, began firing into the crowd. Can't tell what his intended targets were, because 3 of my policemen fell about that time, and civilians were getting shot too.
Okay, what is the status of the people that are injured? Do you know your 3 policemen, for instance?
Well, we have a total of 5 police officers and maybe 6. but four of them at least are stable. The fifth one, he's at a military hospital. I have not had a return on him, but we think he is probably not critical, let me put it that way.
Okay, tell me about the assailant. Who is he? What's he like? Do we have anything like that on him?
No, that we don't have. Homicide is working on that. We don't have identification or anything else about his background or why.
Of course, Chief Peters is talking in retrospect. That interview was taken just after the incident occurred. We now have identified the man, as we told you earlier on in the newscast. Chief Peters was telling us what he knew from the reports that his officers had given him. But there were some at today's parade that were just looking forward to seeing the bands, the floats, and the clowns. And suddenly those expectations were destroyed. The people that you're about to see in this next set of interviews came to the parade to have some fun. They were standing in front of the recreational vehicle when the door suddenly burst open, and their Friday afternoon at a parade turned into a nightmare.
In the middle, they were trying to direct traffic, trying to get people out, clear the way for the parade to start. And then all of a sudden, the door swung loose, and this guy started pointing a shotgun. When the shotgun, he emptied out the whole shotgun. He had a bedspread over another rifle, an M16, and he just burst it out all over the crowd.
Okay, were people around you falling? Did you hit the ground? What was your reaction?
Everybody hit the ground.
Okay, Pat, you were there too. How did you see it from your vantage point?
I was right next to him. So I just saw the door fly open, and that guy started shooting. He shot a policeman right in the middle of the road. He went down, and then everybody started going down.
And then I heard the shot, and I turned around, and I saw the policeman falling to the ground, and I said, "Oh my God, they shot the policeman!" And well, there's all kids around, and so I said, "Get down, everybody, get down!" They shot the policeman, and then they just started shots all over the place. It just started. It was terrible. She had a knife, and she cut the wire that connects the chairs, because the people in front of us were falling behind. You know, they were falling on top of us, and we couldn't get out.
Did you ever see the gunman, the person who was doing the shooting? Where were the shots coming from?
I don't know. The only thing I saw was a shot and saw the policeman fall, and then they just started coming. There must have been, what, about
10. It sounded like about 10 shots all at one time, and everybody just started screaming.
Everything came from inside the Winnebago?
Yes, everything came from that area.
What? So that was the situation at that point, and of course, since then, much more has been learned. We still don't know the motive. We don't know what may have triggered Ira Atteburry to do something like this, but apparently he had planned it long enough to where he had an arsenal inside his vehicle. When we come back, we're going to be talking to at least one SWAT member who believes that perhaps the response time could have been a lot faster. And eventually they did bring it under control, among them members of the SWAT team. We spoke with one of them, and we asked him if he felt that the reaction time and the response time was quick enough.
It took me about 45 minutes.
Where were most of the SWAT officers, or a good percentage of them?
A good percentage were stationed on the parade route itself.
And one of the reasons for that would be possibly that there aren't enough police officers assigned to the department.
I would say definitely. That's a major reason. You have to utilize them where you need them, and nobody anticipated anything like this.
Statements like this regarding department policy can jeopardize your job. Are you willing to take that chance?
Well, I'm not going against any department policy, or I don't think I'm making any statement that would be against any policy. Just stating what I know.
What you feel?
I feel that we need more men, and we need a better plan for if in case something like this does happen.
Those comments will certainly be taken into consideration when the police department investigates what happened here. At 10 o'clock, we're going to have at least one interview with the officer who killed the gunman in this incident. Right now, we of course want to wrap up things with what's going to happen with this parade. Has it been postponed, or is it canceled entirely? Here's that report.
The advice and the instruction of Captain Nichols of the San Jose Police Department, the parade has been officially canceled, and we regret very deeply this tragic event.
Mr. Canty, had you had any type of forewarning? Had there been any threats, anything that would lead you to believe that something like this could have possibly come off?
Not to anybody's knowledge. No, sir. The answer is no.
So there you have it. It all happened here within a space of perhaps 2 hours, but it, as Larry said earlier, is going to be something that will mar this date, not only this year, but for years to come. At 10 o'clock tonight, we're going to have updates on most of this activity, and I'm sure that Larry will have more on that. Back to you, Larry.
All right, thank you, David.
Today's tragic incident has regrettably caused some changes in the game plan for Fiesta Week, for the rest of Fiesta Week. The Battle of Flowers Parade has been definitely canceled. It will not be rescheduled for later this week. Night in Old San Antonio will go on as scheduled this evening at...
A day of chaos, violence, and death. It all started with a joyful occasion, the annual Battle of Flowers Parade, a fiesta ritual. Suddenly, just before the parade began, shots rang out at Grayson and Broadway streets. 3 people were killed, an estimated 47 more wounded, and the man who shot them all is dead tonight, too. We have several reports on the terrifying afternoon. First, Angela Beerville is here, and you were at the scene, Angela.
That's right, Michelle. I was at the scene. We had just completed doing a live report for Newswatch at noon, and about 40 minutes afterwards, the terrible tragedy began. I was one of the people, along with Carrie Boyer and several other Newswatch people, who were at the scene when the tragedy occurred.
The shots rang out just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. They came from a green and white Winnebago parked on the corner of Grayson and Broadway, the staging area for the Battle of Flowers Parade. At first there was hysteria as hundreds of people who were in direct line of fire either fled from the scene or crouched down under the chairs along Broadway.
Get down, ladies, get down!
47 people wounded during those first few minutes, including 5 police officers. 2 people were killed. The whole scene a nightmare for those who lived through it, for this woman finding out her mother had been shot. For many families, it was difficult keeping track of loved ones. Meanwhile, SWAT team members closed in on the scene carefully. At first, it was reported 2 hostages were being held inside, but once it was determined the gunman was alone, police were ready to close in. First tear gas, and then finally SWAT team members shot into the trailer from on top of an adjacent building, apparently hitting the gunman.
He fired a total of 2 and he hit him in the head, sir.
It was all over, an hour and 45 minutes after the sniper had fired those first deadly shots. Hundreds of people ran cheering to the scene of the tragedy. Inside, police discovered an arsenal of 14 weapons. The gunman identified as 64-year-old Ira Atteburry. So it was all over. What many had described as a perfect day for the Battle of Flowers Parade turned into tragedy by a madman.
Michelle, as I was saying earlier, ironically enough, I had been with Gary Boyer, who was the cameraman for Newswatch. We had done what we call a live shot, Newswatch at noon, and I did a live report. I was at the scene on Broadway and Grayson Street. What you see circled is the Winnebago van right behind me. This was before the tragedy occurred, and this was a half an hour before everything happened. This is something that is ironic because I guess I feel, along with the thousands of other people that were around there, to be one of the lucky people. You know, there were, of course, 2 people killed and up to 50 who were, I don't know what the latest count is. I guess it's 47 people who were injured. But I guess that all of us feel that this is something we'll never forget. I don't know how anybody could forget a scene like that
There
today.
were so many children at this event, too, and I can't help but think how they feel tonight about all this. I know a lot of them are real scared, and your little girl was there, too. Where was she when this happened?
Well, actually, when we were doing the live report, my husband and little girl, she's 4, had come down to the scene where we were doing the live shot at Broadway and Grayson Street, and she had wanted to get something to eat, so Gary Boyer and I were going to go off and do what we call a sidebar story. We're going out in the back where the floats were and doing things about that, and all of a sudden we heard the shots and we were called to the scene, and we ran rushing, and I had heard that my little girl and husband were on Broadway, and actually they were I don't know, I think 40 or 50 feet away from where people were shot. So my first thoughts, as I think everybody's thoughts that were there, were...
Killed 2 women. It jammed after that round of shooting, and police say today's tragedy would have been worse if it had not. Then, Atteburry apparently shot himself once through the ear. Chris, he had a brother in Mississippi. Police are trying to contact him now, and that's all we know about a man who terrorized the city today for nearly 2 hours.
But we're not sure whether he planned this or not. In other words, he told Kate Copeland that he was going to be coming back at some time in the future. He was going to take a vacation, something like that.
Right, right. And they have not found a note or anything yet as far as motive.
So there's no way to know if he had all this planned ahead of time?
He must have had it planned ahead of time. He had, like, you know, thousands of rounds of ammunition and all those guns in there. And he never let anyone in, you know.
Never let anyone in his home?
No.
Anything like that?
For over a year.
Police are very lucky that gun jammed, you said. Thank you, Deborah. It's difficult in situations like this to actually relate to viewers how tense or serious victims and police get during a situation like that. The victims are out there today lying in the street, screaming for help. The police didn't know if they could go and help them for a long time. They just could not. They were pinned down by fire. It might have made it worse if they had. Eyewitness News was the first to go live with the story. We'd been doing a live report on the actual parade and the start of it and so on. We were well ahead of the other stations. We'll show you some of that live coverage right now that we did tape with Gary DeLawn as the victims were being treated by EMS technicians.
And we got 2 officers still atop Berghoff Tire, and they're still trying to determine just what in the hell is going on inside that van. Here comes a guy with another baby. There's another baby going into the EMS unit. We don't know how many that makes that we've seen. Oh, land. And you see the smoke pouring now from the RV. And we don't know. Joe Flores is on the front line about 30 yards from the scene. The helicopter is still hovering right above it. Now you see the smoke really pouring from the RV. That's where the shots originated. There's another one going into the, another baby. Maybe, well, we don't know. We're not going to speculate. People have just been overcome by hysteria and tears. We can understand why. We don't know where he must be in the back of the vehicle. He was firing at will. He was shooting everything that moved. He hit the first 4 police officers he apparently spotted, and then the 2 babies that I told you about, and then another young man looked like a teenager with his shoulder hanging droop, blood soaking his shirt, and at least 3
The list just goes on and on and on. This is the Associated Press list. 44 people injured, 2 killed, just such a wide variety of people, from 15-month-old Nicholas Jufre in San Antonio taken to Brooke Army Medical Center, all the way up to 82-year-old Lewis Stewart of Little River, Texas, a person from Norfolk, Virginia, Belton, many, many people from San Antonio, almost all of them in good, fair, or even better condition. Luckily, the injuries not all that serious in many of the cases, but of course a terrible situation. A little later in the day, after that report from Gary, it began to make more sense. Ira Atteburry held up in that recreational vehicle, that motorhome. We had 2 other photographers watching the whole incident from a vantage point from a little bit closer, and Margot Spitz was with them.
This green and white Winnebago had been parked at the corner where the parade was to begin, reportedly early enough to be in a prime location, as it was, for the sniper to fire shots from a large-gauge shotgun into the crowd of about 7,000 near there who'd come to watch the annual parade.
Well, I was sitting in a chair, and whenever they started shooting, they shot 4 or 5 cops right out there in the middle of the intersection with a shotgun. Well, I jumped over the seat. I was going to run over there and grab that gun, yank son of a bitch gun and all that.
Hundreds dropped to the ground, hiding from bullets behind park benches, folding chairs, anything to protect themselves from the round of shots that were coming from inside the van.
We heard a shot, and I thought it was the start off of the parade. And I looked in that trailer on the corner, and I saw the barrel of a rifle. And then we heard more shots, so we started to get down. And my friend fell on me. He got hit in the shoulder.
You have not been hit yourself.
I got just a little piece of metal over my eye. My sister got shot in the throat. My cousin's up there in a lump of people. The people that were shooting were in that trailer. They shot the rope.
And the shots kept coming. Police swarmed behind nearby buildings and onto rooftops, while others formed a vehicle blockade to begin rescue efforts. The SWAT team moved in. With grenade launchers, tear gas was fired into the van. The siege lasted approximately 2 hours. The sniper inside the van reportedly was shot and killed in a final exchange of fire with police. 2 women were killed, both sitting within 10 yards of the sniper's van. Once the ordeal had ended, police bodily formed a barricade to cordon off the area. 2 parade watchers were lucky. They had been huddled nearby the van, unable to move or to be moved, and survived. Margot Spitz, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
One other story that doesn't have to do with somebody shot, but is another sad consequence of this shooting. A 53-year-old woman, Margarita Ramirez, is reported missing. It seems a city bus picked up a busload of patients from the state hospital here, people to watch the parade. They were dropped off on Broadway at the pig stand a little bit south of the area where the shooting occurred. When the shooting started, these people ran. They were scared, of course. The state hospital people had a lot of trouble on their hands, but they found everyone but Margarita Ramirez. And about 7 o'clock tonight, after not being able to find her, they did notify her family. They're really frantic. This woman is very shy, and she was last seen in dark slacks and a white blouse over in that area, a little bit south of where the shooting started. Just one other angle on this story. We'll have more in a minute.
Oh, she
53 years old.
53?
Didn't get into network programming at 10:30 because of the overwhelming quality of this news, but I don't think anybody's going to have that much of an objection. For the first time in 84 years, that's a long time, the Battle of Flowers parade was canceled altogether. The shooting occurred just as many people were getting comfortable in their places to watch the parade. Deborah Knapp was also there earlier today when they were told to go home.
Along the parade route, a full hour after the shooting had begun, the streets were still crowded with people waiting for the parade to begin. It was eerie. People not knowing, not believing.
Well, they say there's a sniper back there that has shot 6 women or something like that. But is it true? Do you know that it happened?
Every few minutes, instead of floats and marching bands, ambulances raced along the parade route. Police bombarded by questions.
I don't believe so.
The big problem for police, beyond Broadway and Grayson, was how to keep more than 3,000 people from panicking. Finally, at 2:45, the announcement was made.
Okay, attention everybody, the parade has been canceled. The parade has been canceled. There will be no parade today. The parade has been canceled. Please go home.
And the Battle of Flowers parade was over before it ever began. Deborah Knapp, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Okay, there's been some talk about the seats for the Battle of Flowers parade. People who bought tickets for those seats and, of course, did not get to see a parade. Tonight I talked with Irving Wayne, who is the seating coordinator for the Fiesta Commission. There's been a change from what we had earlier. This is it. If you had tickets for the Battle of Flowers parade and you want a refund, you should go to the seating area where the seats were for, downtown, before the Flambeau parade tomorrow night. Now, that starts at 7:30, and it will take place. You can get a refund. You will give them the stubs and so on. They'll take your name and send you the money. Some people might have money for you right there, but they said they're not going to have that much probably. Or if you want, you can get seats for tomorrow's parade. Also, they're going to add some extra seats for those people. By the way, these are all charitable organizations. You probably know that, so you shouldn't feel too bad about just letting them keep the money if you want. Of course, the charitable organizations are not getting a refund for paying for those chairs rented because the chairs were out there, so there may be a little loss for them. There have been some questions as to how the police managed to respond so quickly to the sniper's shots. We heard some reports that the police may have known ahead of time that something would happen. Carlos Aguilar looked into that today.
Last week, Eyewitness News had information that the San Antonio Police Department SWAT teams had been put on alert during Fiesta. We also noticed that during each shift change, the police dispatcher made sure that the SWAT teams checked in. On 2 separate occasions during this last week, we checked with the police department concerning the SWAT teams being made ready for action, and each time we were told it was nothing unusual. And then today, when the sniper appeared shooting down people indiscriminately, we wondered, could this have been anticipated? So we asked the same question we had asked earlier. This time we put the question to the police chief. Had there been reason for the department to expect trouble? Did they know something might happen?
We, every year, expect that something could happen. We've had some incidents occur, and because it's
Talking too loud. Broadway and Grayson, EMS, Scott.
and white camper, a green and white camper on the southwest corner of Josephine and Grayson. Grayson and Broadway. Grayson and Broadway is the location. Correction, that'll be Grayson and Broadway. Grayson and Broadway.
This intersection, Broadway and East Grayson, will not be indelibly inscribed into the famous books of history, but the location near downtown San Antonio will imprint its name into the city's history, its fiesta, and its parade-watching citizens. 64-year-old Ira Atteburry took his arsenal of weapons, 2,000 rounds of ammunition, and his recreational vehicle, and from his fortress of instability, etched a Black Friday into the 90-year-old fiesta. It's a wound that may be a long time in healing. We're on the scene, ladies and gentlemen. Reported shooting of at least 4 police officers, and we've seen at least 4 victims taken to these EMS units right here. Just a block away from us at Grayson and Broadway, sniper or snipers are at this moment firing from what is believed to be a recreational vehicle. Everybody has hit the ground, several hundred. We have maybe more than just a dozen wounded already. 3 or 4 police officers reportedly shot. We cannot give you a very good visual view. We're having to stay down. They've cordoned off this area. Panic has not hit, but just hysteria by all the ladies and their children as 2 little babies. I saw one about 2 years old, shot in the neck and the chest, the other in the leg. At least 4 officers reported down, automatic weapon fire, it sounded like to me. Shots again ringing out. We don't know where they're coming from, apparently from that RV. That officer's moving quick. You see him, Smitty? Okay, he's trying to get a shot. He's opened fire once. Now here comes another SWAT team member. Now he's gonna, there he shoots again. There, two more, 3. They're gonna riddle that RV with shots. That's where this tragedy originated, and you can see the smoke now pouring from it. Smoke is pouring from it, Smitty, as we see it now. You can see it just above that orange vehicle there. That's at the Berghoff tire where this vehicle, there's another shot ringing out. We're going to keep reiterating, we've had maybe a dozen, maybe more wounded. We're not trying to create panic, we're just keeping you informed. We've been told that 4 officers were down. You heard from Neil Merchant, an eyewitness. They're going to empty it. Tragedy has interrupted this Fiesta parade today. They're riddling it now full of bullets. And oh, it's really smoking now. And if we could just get closer, which we can't at this time. We don't know where he must be in the back of the vehicle. He was firing at will. He was shooting everything that moved. He hit the first 4 police officers he apparently spotted, and then the 2 babies that I told you about, and then another young man looked like a teenager with his shoulder hanging droop, blood soaking his shirt. And at least 3 ambulances are on the scene. 2 are getting ready to leave that little baby. Oh, God, we pray that she's all right. All right. They're getting ready to empty some more bullets in there. We're standing about 100 yards, maybe a little less, as the helicopter is hovering above. And the police officers are now racing back this way. Joe Flores is up there on the firing, and there's another one going in that's been hit, Smitty. See it going into the EMS? There's another one right here going in with a apparent leg wound. There goes one leaving for the hospital. We've got 5 EMS units right here. I'm going to try to move a little closer if I can with a microphone. No, you can't, Smitty. You cannot see any better from there. Just stay where you are. You got a good shot at that front door of the RV. I think he's quit firing. I don't know. There's another one going into the, another baby. Maybe, well, we don't know. We're not going to speculate. People have just been overcome by hysteria and tears. We can understand why. Please don't come to this area. Please do not come downtown. We will keep you informed. We will let you know the latest from this scene at Grayson and Broadway. Before the parade started, it was to have started at 1:30. And this has been a tragic, tragic happenstance. There must be at least 50 officers here on the scene, and everybody is trying to determine if the sniper or snipers, we don't know how many, is still in that recreational vehicle. We have interrupted programming to keep you informed of this scene from downtown San Antonio, near downtown. dead, more than 51 wounded or injured. Those two unfortunate women killed in the fusillade were just wanting to watch a parade. 49-year-old Amalia Castillo, mother of 13 children, and 27-year-old Ida Dollard, mother of 2. Ira Atteburry was deadly. His aim from semi-automatic weapons was on target. 6 officers of the 7 at the intersection were hit like clay pigeons. The crowd was suddenly transformed into a pond of sitting ducks.
How about let's put him on the back and get him out of here? And you call him in and call him whatever. Hang on, we're going to drag you. Hang on.
Officers wounded were Lieutenants Robert Maldonado and Gary Nagy, Inspector Elroy Quinwelge, and Sergeants Louis Grassmuck, Ben Donahoe, and Tom Barker. Patrolman John Scott was hurt when his motorcycle overturned as he raced toward the sniper's aid. Eyewitnesses and wounded victims were living in a nightmare.
We heard a shot, and I thought it was the start off of the parade. And I looked in that trailer on the corner, and I saw the barrel of a rifle. And then we heard more shots, so we started to get down. And my friend fell on me, got hit in the shoulder.
You have not been hit yourself.
I got just a little piece of metal over my eye. My sister got shot in the throat. My cousin's up there in a lump of people. The people that were shooting were in that trailer.
They let off one shot, and I thought, well, there's some idiot out here popping firecrackers. So I stood up and looked around and see where the fireworks come from. And I looked across, as I was turning around to look back at the intersection, I seen smoke come from the trailer, from the gun. And there's another cop hit the ground. I turned around, I told the wife and the rest of my family, get on the ground. I jumped over the row chair just in front of me. I thought, well, hell, I'll go over there and help the cops out, pull the son of a bitch out.
Almost 2 hours after the black afternoon began, the 80 to 100 officers in the area secured the recreational vehicle as the mad sniper was dead.
Unable to determine any motive whatsoever at this point?
Chief, what will this do for the... It looks like it's planned.
What will this do for the parade in the future?
Oh, I don't think we're going to close shop. These are things you can't anticipate. They happen all over the country, all over the world sometimes, so I think life should go on.
Did any of the shooting victims have any association with him?
We don't know of any. I doubt it. I doubt seriously.
What are some of the reasons why you think this was all planned out?
Somebody's got to be sick when they plan anything like this. That'd be the only reason I'd give.
You just think it was an isolated kook?
Something of that nature, yes.
But it was premeditated, in your opinion?
You heard about the fellow on the tower at UT, the fellow or the girl in San Diego? Well, that kind of people, you know.
Mr. Atteburry actually shot himself through the head with his own gun, with a 38 caliber gun. And actually, that was the cause of death.
It didn't appear that any police bullets hit him?
No. There was a story that he had been target shooting some time ago, and one of the bullets ricocheted and came to lodge into his chest wall. But that bullet was dormant and had nothing to do with the cause of death.
So there was another bullet in him?
Yes, there was another bullet there.
Now, you've also had a finding that's rather surprising to you.
Yes, we are right now, at this time, confirming the presence of PCP, and we like to be absolutely sure that this is what we are finding.
So what effect would angel dust have on him?
Well, he could have created some unusual behavior, and this is probably what pushed him to do what he was doing.
What kind of a man was Ira Atteburry, the berserk killer who wreaked havoc and death on the city's pride and pageantry of Fiesta? Apparently, some one thing triggered a sick mind and pushed him over the brink, as Debbie Knapp reports.
He was born in Arkansas, and as far as police know, he had only lived here in San Antonio for a little over a year. He was retired. The first place he apparently lived was the Medical Center Mobile Home Park off Fredericksburg Road. He lived there for a few months and then moved down the road to the Medical School Mobile Home Park. He moved in there last May with the same Uterline motor home he fired from today. The manager there ran Atteburry off after a month.
Well, I asked him to leave. He was the type of person I didn't think I wanted in the park.
Why?
Well, I have a family-type park, and
What was he like?
He acted like he was crazy.
Why? What did he do?
He acted as though he was worried all the time about somebody getting to him. He hadn't been here 3 days till he told me a 58-foot motorhome had parked next to his home all night the night before. And he asked me if I had seen it. And I told him I'd never seen one that long.
Who did he say was in the mobile home?
He said he didn't know who it was, but he said it was somebody that was trying to get him.
Did he ever mention the police?
He said he had gone to the police several times for help, and they wouldn't help him. And he said he found out that they were watching him also. Everywhere he went downtown, he'd look around and see police watching him. And I asked him what he thought they was watching him for, and he said he didn't know.
Did he not like the police?
Well, he didn't particularly imply to me that he didn't like them. He kept telling me that they wouldn't help him.
Did he feel like they were out to get him?
Yes, I think he told me that one time.
Atteburry apparently had a grudge against police. The first victims to fall from his bullet were 6 policemen. They're all in fair condition tonight. Last June, Atteburry moved to Al's Trailer Park off Southwest Military Drive. The manager there also said he was secretive and kept his curtains pulled. He never let anyone in. Last night, Atteburry moved out.
He was going to stay here and watch the parade today, and then Saturday or Sunday he was going to leave and go to Arkansas and Missouri.
What kind of a man was he?
Well, he was kind of a loner. He stayed to himself a lot.
That motorhome sits alone in an eerie silence at the police impound yard. Bullet-ridden from the ground up, it appears as if it has been in a war. Moving inside, the atmosphere seems as bizarre as the events that took place that day. The inside has been ransacked by police, searching for some clues as to why Atteburry went on the rampage. They have found little so far. The smell of tear gas and gunpowder is still strong. Windows and vents have been shot out. The vehicle was definitely under siege. Meanwhile, at police headquarters, the 9 rifles and 4 handguns Atteburry had were on display. It was an awesome sight. 2 semi-automatic weapons, 1 he actually fired with, and a host of other big guns. As for the ammunition, had he not taken his life or been shot, he had enough ammunition to last for hours. A literal shopping cart full.
The gun that produced most of the danger was an AR-15, a semi-automatic rapid-fire weapon, similar to the Army's M16. It contained a clip of 30 rounds, as did the carbine he also used. Atteburry had enough ammunition to hold off the police for hours. Officials say the shotguns were loaded with birdshot and not buckshot, or others might have died. Detective R.F. Stengel has examined the sniper's weapons.
Now, this is the AR-15 that Ira Atteburry allegedly used in his act of violence.
Yes, sir.
And how does it operate?
It's a semi-automatic. When you pull the trigger, the bolt comes back and throws out the empty and puts another cartridge in out of the magazine that's here.
How rapidly will it fire?
As fast as you can pull the trigger.
And what was the clip?
30 rounds.
After he used this, then he supposedly picked up a carbine, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the way I understand it.
And what caliber was it?
30 caliber M1 carbine.
And how many does it fire at what rate?
It fires, again, as fast as you can pull the trigger, and it has a 30-round magazine.
Now,